Isn't Jeff Bezos doing with Amazon what every retailer tries to do? Undercut the competition with lower prices to get their customers. Amazon grows because they are really good at selling stuff, at being retailers. Isn't that true?
Well, one thing I would say is that Amazon isn't really a retailer, that its ambitions are much deeper than that. And we should talk about that. But the other thing, specifically in response to your question, is that Amazon has grown not just by being better at what it does, but often by using very anti-competitive tactics, by being able to use, for example, its deep pockets to sell goods at a loss. So, for example, when Zappos, the online shoe retailer, started up and was growing in popularity and offering a service that people really liked, Amazon responded by selling shoes at a loss. It lost tons and tons of money. Some estimates put it as high as $150 million selling shoes at a loss. And of course, Zappos, being a smaller company, just didn't have the deep pockets to match Amazon's prices and sustain those kinds of losses. And eventually, it had to give up. It was bleeding red, and it said, okay, Amazon, you can buy us. And now Zappos is part of Amazon. And so we've consistently over the years seen Amazon use different kinds of predatory tactics to block competition and to squash other companies. So it's not just a matter of competing on a fair playing field. It's really a set of monopoly tactics, and that's what we should be concerned about.
You report in The Nation how Amazon strong-armed Birkenstock into selling its special sandals at Amazon. What were Amazon's tactics?
Amazon is not only the platform that Birkenstock relies on to retail some of its shoes. Amazon buys Birkenstocks directly, but Amazon also hosts all of these other sellers on its platform who are selling Birkenstocks. And there has been this rising problem of counterfeits, tons of counterfeit Birkenstocks, lots of other kinds of counterfeit products on Amazon's platform from these third-party sellers, many based overseas. And Amazon has been wanting Birkenstock for a long time to sell its full line, not just its major products, but also all its niche shoes directly to Amazon, because Amazon wants to compete with specialty local shoe retailers that specialize in Birkenstock and sell that full line. And the way that Birkenstock benefits a lot from those local retailers. They help people, fit their shoes. They provide all of these additional services that really benefits Birkenstock. So Birkenstock rewards them by saying, okay, we'll give you all of these niche products that aren't available elsewhere. Well, Amazon doesn't like that deal because they want to go after that market too. And so what they said to Birkenstock is, we're not going to police all these counterfeits on our site. We're not going to get rid of the counterfeit Birkenstocks unless you agree to sell to us your full line.
Wow.
And the only reason we know that happened is that Birkenstock fought back, and they actually went public and said, we're not going to do this, and we have a brand relationship with our customers, and we're going to stand up. But we have reason to believe that Amazon is doing that with other manufacturers, including Nike, to the detriment both, of those companies, but also the competing specialty stores as well.
Let's talk about Amazon Marketplace. This is the deal where independent stores that don't want to compete with Amazon become part of Amazon. Their products are advertised to the millions of people like me who start their shopping at Amazon. Aren't these stores doing all right? They're getting to sell their products to many more people.
Yeah, it used to be that when people went to buy something online, they would start at a search engine. So they would maybe go to Google and they would type in the kind of product that they wanted. They would get a bunch of different results, including Amazon. They might go and buy it on Amazon. They might go to one of the other companies offering it and buy it there. Over time, what has happened is that now more than half of all online shoppers are actually starting their product search right on Amazon. And what that has meant for competing retailers, independent stores, competing chains, manufacturers, is that if those companies want to reach consumers, no matter how good their website is, no matter how sophisticated their e-commerce strategy is, half the shopping traffic is already bypassing them. They can never find them because they're not even starting on a search engine. They're just starting at Amazon. And what this has meant is that a lot of of retailers that would like to be doing business on their own directly have been compelled to join Amazon's platform, to become third-party sellers on Amazon's site. And this is a really treacherous place to be. I mean, on the one hand, you get back access to that half of the market that's starting right on Amazon. But on the other hand, you're living and dying by Amazon's terms. And we know from a study that was done by Harvard Business School that Amazon actually monitors what those third-party sellers are selling. And if they have a hot product, Amazon brings it into its own inventory and then begins selling it itself and competing directly against them. Amazon often changes fees, and so the fees for using its fulfillment services have been rising dramatically. And of course, the third-party sellers have no other place to turn. And so there's this power dynamic, and this is really what, is a centerpiece of what the article is all about, is that Amazon isn't a retailer. That's not the right way to think about it. Amazon wants to control the underlying infrastructure of commerce. And so that all these other companies that want to reach consumers online now have to use Amazon's platform. And soon, if they want to ship things and have them arrive at the consumer's door, they're probably also going to be using Amazon's shipping services. And of course, many companies also use its cloud computing services, Netflix, Condé Nast, all these big companies actually rely on Amazon to manage their data. So in effect, all these other companies in the economy, they need to ride Amazon's rails if they want to get to market. They are dependent on the company that is their most ferocious competitor. And therein lies the conflict of interest that is at the heart of the anti-competitive problem that Amazon presents. Amazon uses that privileged position not only to grab the part of the market that it wants and to shut other companies aside, but essentially to levy a kind of tax across the economy, across all this commerce that's going on its rails.
Now it's time for your Minnesota moment. That's news from my hometown of St. Paul. Minnesota entered the competition over the last few months to find a site for Amazon's second headquarters. Minnesota offered $5 million in government subsidies if Amazon would build its second headquarters somewhere around the Twin Cities, but that got rejected. What are the biggest offers of taxpayer subsidies that Amazon got for a new headquarters? How much bigger than $5 million are they?
Boy, it is amazing. It's just astonishing, the figures that elected officials are putting on the table. So in Maryland, they've offered $5 billion, as well as close proximity to Congress, right? Very advantageous for a company like Amazon right now, as people are starting to scrutinize its power. And then in New Jersey, the New Jersey former Governor Chris Christie and Senator Cory Booker and the mayor of Newark put together a package worth $7 billion. That's more than Amazon's headquarters is supposed to cost. I mean, it's just an astonishing figure. And of course, you've got local businesses in those communities that have been growing and creating jobs and trying to compete without a dime in public assistance. And now they're watching as their elected officials grovel and woo and hand out public dollars to get one of their biggest competitors to come to town.
Well, we've been circling around the question of antitrust enforcement. What would breaking up Amazon look like?
So with Amazon, I think the essential thing is that we need to get rid of the conflict of interest that's at the heart of its business model. So we need to separate Amazon as a platform that other companies use in order to sell goods online and to reach shoppers. We need to separate that from Amazon as a retailer and a manufacturer of goods itself, so that the company is no longer able to use what it learns from the companies that rely on it to reach the market in order to compete against them and undermine their business. And in some ways, this is, sort of harkens back to the kinds of problems that we faced, about a century ago with the railroads. When the railroads first came along, they were owned by these industrialists who also owned factories and other kinds of companies, and they used their control of the rails to privilege their own goods and shunt aside goods made by their competitors. And so that's what really gave rise to our antitrust laws in the first place. And we said to the railroads, you're a common carrier, you have to treat all comers equally and be a sort of fair medium for people to get to the market. And that's really what we need to do with Amazon.
The Trump administration is obviously not going to engage in antitrust enforcement against Amazon or probably anybody else, but could cities or states go after monopolies like Amazon? You're part of the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, so this is your thing. Could state or local action work in the case of Amazon?
There are certainly things that cities can do in response to Amazon. There are strategies that we're promoting that help communities strengthen local businesses, and in doing so, really insulate their local economies from the worst effects of Amazon. There are other things too. Cities can certainly look at, for example, their own purchasing, their public procurement. Are they buying goods and services from Amazon, or are they buying those goods and services locally? I also think that state attorneys general can play an important role here. We've actually seen the Missouri Attorney General open an investigation into Google for potential anti-competitive violations. And some of our most important, antitrust cases in the past, including, the Standard Oil when they were broken up, the Microsoft case in the 90s, those actually really got started with state attorneys general who were doing investigations, and then it eventually got picked up at the federal level. And so I'm hoping that some state AGs will begin to be looking at Amazon more closely.